Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to the Fighters Rep 21 event recap with someone I am absolutely elated to be joined by this evening. Someone who made their debut commentating at Fighters Rep 21, none other than Tavia 10 Pound. Tavia, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, George. How are you?
I'm doing well. Listen, first and foremost, I got to give you a lot of credit. You are a natural. I thought you did a fantastic job. I thought you and Kyle were just fantastic commentary. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I had people messaging me from California that watch our shows out there telling me how great of a job you guys did. So I wanted to show you some appreciation there and give you your flowers. I really appreciate what you did there.
Yeah, thank you so much. And shout out to Kyle for being a great, co-commentator. Like as a first timer, I was so nervous and he was just really patient and kind and great energy. He's got such great energy because it's a long night and I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. And man, I just fed off of him, honestly. So he did a great job and I appreciate him being so welcoming for me.
Yeah, yeah. Did it add to the nerves having like nine people from your team on the card, or how was
A
that?
little bit, but it was actually more comfortable because I just knew so much about them. So it was
Right,
really
right.
easy for me to kind of just sit there and give some background. I think I got
Mhm.
the most nervous for Alexis, though. That was probably like where I had to like control
Wow.
myself a
Okay.
little because I just wanted to cheer her on as a fan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, kind of want to cut right to the chase with you. I mean, what did you think about the whole event, the experience? I mean, what were your thoughts about the debut show in South Florida, in Pompano Beach?
Yeah, I mean, credit to you again. Congratulations. It was a great event. I've worked with a lot of amateur events and professional events just beside Asa, being in his corner and in and around these type of things. And you guys are very organized. Every show is going to have its hiccups, professional or amateur. They always happen, but you guys are just like on it. I mean, the communication I think was flawless. You have a great team of like editors and content creators and Sasha, the event planner. So for me, it was very easy. I thought it went basically hiccup free. I was
Yeah,
shocked
yeah.
and everybody commented on they were glad that it wasn't like such a long late show because that just makes for an even longer night. So congrats to you, honestly, because it was a
Thank
great
you.
turnout. It was a great turnout. It was so packed and I think a lot of people too I saw bought the stream and watched from home. So that was really exciting too. And yeah, I had a great time. It was awesome.
I love to hear that, and it's not just, I mean, I appreciate you congratulating me, but it's a community, I can't do it without you guys. And I mean that literally and figuratively, right? I mean, you guys stepped up, you with the commentary. You guys introduced me to Kyle. Heck, the ring card girl, you guys
Yeah.
introduced me to. Put in 8 or 9 fighters on the card, and shout out to all the teams that came out too. All the fighters. I mean, all the teams came out. They backed up their fighters. The fans, the family members. They sold tickets. And it was a heck of a turnout. I mean, there were times in there where it was really really loud and really exciting. And I think that gives the fighters an experience that they're going to need to take to the next level. It's going to give them an advantage if they're surrounded by a good crowd like that when they fight going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to the teams because yeah, there was a lot of people there. Even if they only had one fighter on the card, there was people showing out with signs. Like that was awesome. That felt
Yeah.
like an actual live event. I don't know. I mean, it was live, but when people bring the signs and the logo, it's really cool. It does. It adds to the atmosphere. Kyle and I, we picked up on that. For sure. We were like, oh my gosh, like we didn't even realize there were so many teams with like signs and wearing T-shirts. Like that's a great environment.
I loved it, and I felt like because I don't know if you noticed this beforehand, but as you saw on the show last night, we do the opening ceremony where we
Mhm.
honor all the teams, and we want to build those rivalries. We don't want it to get, nasty or anything like that, but we want to build that appreciation, that love for the team. You know what I mean? Kind of like people have their football teams. We want people that watch the fight game to be like Raiders fans. We want the FKA folks to ride or die for their team, and we want the Bushido folks to do the same, and so on and so forth. So it was awesome, like you said, seeing those signs for the teams, seeing a lot of people come out wearing all the same gear, like
Yeah.
representing for their team. I thought that was awesome, and I think that adds like a very nice like flavor of rivalry to the kickboxing world, because it is an individual sport, but really it's a team sport behind the scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's getting each other ready for all of these fights, right, Tavia?
For sure. And as a Dolphins fan, I have to
Go.
I have to agree. Yeah, it definitely, I think the stage helps too. Like, some people don't realize that, but like when you see people on an elevated surface, you're just like, oh wow, like these are the fighters, like it gets exciting. I loved that because that was really like epic. It's like, okay,
Yes.
here they are. Here's your fighters for the night. Like this is your entertainment. And I know they like it too. Like they like to kind of come out and, do their little walk because they work really hard. I mean, honestly, like they don't get paid to do this. I mean, you guys, with your commission, but still like they put a lot of things on the line just to come out and perform. And obviously they want to do it, but it's also very entertaining. I mean, I didn't hear any bad comments. Like everybody was like, that was such a great fight. I'm getting messages from students and people who are watching the stream, and just everyone's like, wow, what a great night. Like it was so much fun. We brought our kids, like it was great. So I really liked that element too. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we all have to fight each other's gyms. It's a small circle, so we know each other. But yeah, it's a competitor sport. Like we like to kind of build that up too, with the blue corner over here and the red corner over here, and you like don't see each other until you step out. Like that makes for more adrenaline during the fight.
For sure. I know. I love to hear that you were getting messages and so on and so forth about the fights. I like to hear that people enjoyed the experience. And like you said, they work hard. That's another reason we do the opening ceremony. I want to showcase these guys. I want to put them out there. I want to show them the appreciation that they deserve. Like you said, especially in the amateur ranks, right? Regardless, I mean, we do opening ceremonies even for the pro-am cards, but it's good to show appreciation to these fighters because it takes a lot of heart to go after this career. I mean, this is a dangerous career. It's a very high risk, usually low reward career. And I think you got to show these guys and gals a lot of appreciation. Speaking of gals, what a fight we had last night, but we're going to get into that in a second, Tavia. But before I continue, in the same vein as that appreciation and that support, guys, be sure to subscribe, join the channel. That's how you help this thing grow. That's how we help this sport grow. That's how you help me and Tavia and the rest of us grow this sport and help these fighters out. A lot of people, Tavia, always complaining fighter pay. How come they can't get paid more? How come they can't get more? Well, they can if you guys support them. If you join this channel, it's $9.99 a month. It's all reinvested right back into the promotion. You can ask Tavia. We do our best in providing fighters whatever we can legally. And so support, join, help us get these fighters out there. We'll continue to grow the sport and create our own stars right here at FightersRep. Now, first and foremost, Tavia, I wanted to start off with fight number one. It was Grant Pottinger. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Pottinger versus Mike Coriolan. It was Bowen Muay Thai versus Bushido Muay Thai right off the bat. I think I told you I like to start the card off with a banger. I felt like these guys are big, tall guys, and it kind of lived up to that. If I don't mind myself saying, it kind of lived up to that.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, I was impressed with him. As a debut fighter, you never know what to expect, but he came out swinging and he had a game plan and he stuck to it. He had great composure in there. I really liked the fact that he knew he was doing damage, but he didn't overexpose himself. Like he just took his time, and I think his post-fight speech was really funny and candid. He just said, yeah, I got to get back in the gym, work on my cardio more. Like this was, exhausting to do that output the entire fight. And I love that because it just goes to show you that he realized, some things he could work on during the fight, but he did a great job throughout the entire night. Tough loss for Grant, but coming from that Muay Thai background, I kind of expected him to be a little slower in there. And I think that's just really what it was. He never found his rhythm. He never got super comfortable. And, it was easy for Mike to kind of just sit there and pick his shots on him. So, it's something to learn from, but definitely a great fight. Those guys were, tall, exciting, like did not hold back for the first fight. Yeah. So I enjoyed it.
And in tremendous shape. I mean, I know he says he wants to work on his cardio, but my goodness, the both of them were like chiseled in there, like statuesque. I was like, look at these guys, they really, in my opinion, I mean, shout out to the both of them. I thought it was a close, fun fight. I thought Mike obviously pulled away, but Grant put up a good fight as well, and nothing to hang his head about. I thought they embodied what it meant to be a kickboxer with their physique when they walked in there. I mean, they looked ready to go. Probably a huge adrenaline dump, I would imagine. In that it was Grant's debut or Mike's debut, and Grant's only had one fight before in front of a crowd like that. So big shout out to them. I think they got some good experience on the night. Moving on to a fight that I thought, Tavia, was one of the most entertaining fights of the night. I mean, there were a few of them, but this one especially stuck out to me. This was an oh wow. This fight had a couple oh wow moments in it. It was Fernando Tranquilo Abello Morejon. I'm saying the whole name for him. Shout out to him versus Nate Haji at 155 pounds. Tavia, my goodness, this one was insane. With the first round going back and forth, Haji landing a huge right hook, dropping Abello hard. I mean, that was a brutal knockdown. I think a lesser man would have given up or been knocked out, Tavia, but he kept going, man. Tell me about this fight, about this kid Abello.
Yeah, we were raving about him at our after dinner. We were just like, we could not believe the comeback. Personally, we don't know him that well. He's only been with us like just under a year. And I know that doesn't sound like, oh, you don't know him. But like, people, they're in the gym, they're out of the gym. I haven't like sat down and spent a ton of time with him. I also know some of these guys for years and years, and I've seen them in the gym. So for me, he's pretty new. So we had no idea how he was going to come out. Like, yeah, we've been training him, but you don't know how someone's going to get in there and fight. Yeah. And, he came out hard in that first round, throwing knees, being aggressive. We were like, oh my God, that's not what we expected. We thought he was going to be more patient and just kind of maybe feel out the first round because he has a lot of training experience. So we were like, all right, maybe he's just going to like feel his way in there and then get comfortable. Now, gunfire from the start, gets caught, gets dropped. We're like, oh no, like this is it. I know what Ace is thinking. He's like, oh no, like, this is not going to be good.
At that point, at that point when he got dropped, I said he's probably going to get finished here.
This is done. Yeah, like this is done. On top of that, I found out later on in the night he had a toe injury, like midway. I think after that first round, not only getting knocked down, but now his toe is like all messed up, and that's hard. You're kickboxing, you're planting on your feet, like everything comes from your feet and your base. And then to come back the way he did, like, holy moly, like, we were stunned. I mean, I think Kyle and I, during the commentary, we understood why it was a draw. But, man, like, I got to give it to Fernando. Like, in my heart, he won that fight. I mean, just to come back from a knockdown alone, then your toes all messed up, and you go out there and you finish a fight like that. Like, again, nothing to hang his head about. He did a great job. And Nate with the knockdown, like, not what I expected. I didn't know he had that power like that. And that was impressive from him for sure.
That right hand was brutal that Nate landed. And, again, I thought it was over. Abello stands back up, stumbles around a bit, is able to get his wits about him again and win rounds number 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about Nate, what a tough customer he is as well, because he must have taken something like 15 to 20 knees directly to the body, to the liver, to the ribs, to the stomach. I said to myself, these guys they just don't want to lose tonight, and neither guy lost.
Yeah, we were like, Asa told me afterward, he's like, I wasn't sure what to expect from Fernando, but him being the first fight, I think set the tone for everyone else, because every one of our fighters saw that, kind of saw his comeback, and they were like, all right, like we got to go out there and pull up and do a bit even better, so it was a good starter for our gym, for our team.
What a warrior. I mean, both warriors. So again, shout out to Abello and shout out to Haji. Really hope to have you guys back in the Lions Den sometime soon. So that moves us on to fight number 3. This was another very exciting one. Kleber Peralta out of ATT All Striking, and Joe Barrientos out of Bushido Muay Thai. 2 big, thick, strong guys, 475 pounds. Kleber getting the win, but a very action-packed fight. I thought Kleber looked real good in this fight. Barrientos looked good at times. I thought he hurt Kleber at times. He was the bigger, more physical guy. But Kleber would not back down. I mean, he had so much will, great technique, and just a great fight,
Yeah, that was probably my favorite fight technique-wise up until that point. Kleber's so impressive. Like, all I remember is just impressive. This kid impressed us. Kyle and I were raving about his technique and just his confidence in there. Like, you know, you would not think this guy is a debut fighter. And then on top of that, facing someone like Joel, who has experience, who is not afraid in the ring. Like, he has a presence in the ring as well. But I don't know if it was the weight cut for Joel or just something, you know, he just never really got too comfortable in there. I think Clever was just feeling it from like round one, you know, all the way through. And yeah, very impressed by Clever Peralta for sure. Somebody to look out for, because you know, he had just phenomenal technique, knew when and where to hit, you know, and understood he had his guy hurt at times, but, you know, kept himself safe. And yeah, for Joel, I mean, I know he can perform better than that. You know, he's coming from a really good gym. I think it might have been a weight cut. I remember weigh-ins, he looked a little more drained probably than usual for him. But those guys are big, you know, they cut a lot, and maybe he just hasn't found his weight class yet. But yeah, I mean, heavy hands for Joel for sure. And you know, if I like being in the ring with someone like that, he's intense, like, you know, but Clever, not intimidated at all. Very impressed by him.
No, no. I mean, Clever was just kind of throwing himself into the fire at times, and he did pay for it a couple times, but you know he ended up definitely, I mean, getting the win in that fight, and you know, looking impressive if you ask me. I mean, so big shout out again to him. Big shout out to both of them. Hope to have them back in the Lions Den as well. Very exciting fighters, and you know, hope to see them again soon. That takes us on to fight number 4, another FKA representative, and Ryan Grew taking on Torrance Cower at 175 pounds. This was a fun little fight too. You know, this one kind of took a little bit of time to warm up and marinate. In the first round, they were feeling each other out, but then, you know, they started to get more confident as the fight went on. I thought Grew especially started to get more confident in his hands. I want to say he was more kick heavy at the beginning, maybe the first half of the fight, but I felt like he could hang in the boxing as well at some point, and really started to land some good shots there and get real aggressive towards the end of the fight. I saw Asa in the corner, like, yeah, let's go. So shout out to Grew, man. He really put on a good fight there, and did a good job for you guys, I think.
Yeah, this is the fight that Asa lost his voice on for sure. He told me that's when the voice went. I just already on Grew. No, Grew, you know, he, again, coming from a Muay Thai background, he likes to fight Muay Thai. He's used to a little bit of a slower start. You know, we talked about it after the fight. He's like, yeah, I wish I would have, you know, came out a little quicker. But he did. As soon as he kind of felt comfortable in there and saw that he had a little bit more advantage, especially in the cardio. Torrance surprised me by that, you know. Did come in heavy at weigh-in, so maybe that's what it was. But he looks phenomenal. Like, the guy's ripped, you know. So yeah, maybe it was just a tough weight cut. But yeah, Grew looked great towards the end. You know, really picked it up, threw a lot of knees like I expected. He has a really good knee game that he likes to use. Yeah, got really comfortable with his boxing, and I didn't realize too, Grew's coming off of an ankle injury that happened last year, so it's been a while for him. And I did kind of forget about that. I didn't realize that this was his first fight back, because I thought he already had one. But yeah, he just took a little time, you know, that it's kind of classic Grew, but when you hit him, he wakes up, you know, he doesn't back down. Like, Grew's a tough guy. He's tough, man. And, I would like to see him get back in there again and maybe, you know, pick it up from jump, you know, maybe not take round 1 off so much, but it happens, you know, you feel your opponent out, and it's just, you know, kickboxing though, it's fast. You gotta win these rounds, and I think he knows that too, you know, but he did great, you know. We love Grew. He's just one of our one of the OGs at the gym, and is always gonna put on a show for you.
For sure, for sure. Well, we look forward to it. And that brings us to fight number 5, Shimon Howard taking on Yevgeny Budakov out of Los Angeles, Hardworks Fitness. I know Hung was very upset about this fight. It was a close fight. He thought his guy won. Of course, Florida Kickboxing Academy thought their guy won. I thought this was a super close fight. You know, this was a tough one to score. I felt like in the beginning, you know, Shimon started off pretty well, and I felt like Yevgeny came on as the fight went on. Exciting fight. And I want to say, really great technique, considering that was their second fight for the both of them. Great technique.
Yeah, for newer guys, they look great. You know, Budakov, watching his fight, he kind of came out like I expected, but got better as the fight went on. He does that. You know, I think that's maybe something he needs to focus on for his next camp, like starting a little stronger, because he's losing these rounds so closely, it seems. When it came to the decision, I really wasn't sure. That was a tough one to score, because Shimon definitely had his moments. But yeah, also Budakov had his moments too, and
Yeah,
really put the
yeah,
pace on him in that second round, and had Shimon kind of hurt on a couple shots for sure. But maybe it was the head movement and the output. Like when you move like that and you slip punches, that
yeah,
also looks really good against the judges, because it's like, well, you're not getting hit with anything. This guy may be throwing 10 punches, but he just missed like 9 of them.
yeah.
And you returned with Shimon kept doing that big body hook. And I think that
That
was
was a
smart.
nice punch.
Also, the kicks to the rib. I mean, we were sitting right there, and Kyle and I were looking at each other like, man, we don't know if Budakov's going to like keep hanging on, because those body kicks were
Yeah,
really ripping
yeah.
into the rib. And coming out into the second, I think he knew that, and that's when he picked it up. But again, I think just a little too late for Budakov. I think he needs to work on that first round, come out a little stronger, because that second round he looked great. He
Yeah.
came more aggressive. He started throwing body kicks, but I think he's just losing these rounds really closely. It seems like from these past 2 fights that I've, watched of his. And again, shout out to Shimon. This kid, I mean, he works so hard. He takes the train to the gym every day. Like, no excuses, is just there, happy to be there. He's got like one of the best attitudes you've ever seen, just grateful to have these opportunities, and, puts a lot of work in, listens to the corner really well. I think only better things from him, because that kid ready to fight whenever. He'll take a fight on a day's notice. So yeah, I look forward to seeing him again in the ring.
That was an awesome fight. You know what stood out to me in that fight was, like you said, Shaman's body kicks, that slip and rip to the body, and also Budakov's. He was throwing this. I think it was like a 3-4. He was landing this hook combo a lot. As I felt like Shaman was trying to exit out, he started to land it a little bit, and it's just very exciting. I mean, they landed some solid shots on each other, but both of them very solid guys. And again, guys, we look forward to having in the Lions Den very soon. So that brings us to fight number 6. This was quite a brawl as well. It was Tieran Tognini taking on Reiner Moy. Again, Florida Kickboxing Academy, this time taking on Vice City Striking. Great fight. Reiner just looked very, very technical in this fight. But Tiernan not giving up at all, man, and really, I mean, gave it his all and made it a close fight, especially considering, I mean, he had significantly less experience in this fight, but the experience showed for Reiner. I mean, he looked very technical.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Reiner for that performance. Seeing some of his fights previously, he's definitely made improvements and adjustments. I know he likes to fight Muay Thai, but that was a great kickboxing performance from him. I don't think he should shy away from the kickboxing scene. I think he's starting to pick up that pace. That was the one thing I was kind of concerned about with him, because in previous fights, I've seen him just kind of like get overwhelmed and fight off the back foot and not really do, he just gets overwhelmed, and guys see that and take advantage. But he looked great in this fight, because Tiernan brought it. I mean, I did not expect him to come out as hard as he did, and he did. Yeah. And I was shocked by that. And, he really tried to put it on Reiner. And we said, Kyle was like, oh, Tiernan's kind of doing that bully move. And that's just because he had like less experience. So he knows he's got to overwhelm this guy. He knows he's not going to maybe sit there and be able to pick him apart as well as he is. So I thought that was a great back and forth. Obviously, Tiernan, he's upset, he wanted the win, but he had a lot of great things to take out of that fight, and things to work on, honestly. Every time you fight, win or lose, you just have to look at what you did and kind of improve, because you can't stay the same in this game. If you do, people are going to see that, and they're going to start to, watch you, study you, and pick you apart. Even in the amateurs, the more you fight, the more film is out there. So, props to Reiner. He looked great, honestly. Major improvements from his last performances, and I'd like to see him kickbox again for sure.
Yeah. And, I would agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of lessons to be taken away from this card. That's something that really, that I felt was like a major point kind of this card is, I felt like some guys are probably going to go back and watch some of these tapes and be like, oh man, I could have done this, or I could have done that. And that's what we want. This is the amateurs, and we want people to learn and get better. So kind of like my friends back in LA would say, a couple of coaches that I know, they would say, you win or you learn. You don't really win or lose. You win or you learn at this level. And so, so shout out to both of them. That was a great fight, and I'm sure they came away with a lot. Mm-hmm. Now, next up, fight number 7, Tavia. Just absolute madness. I mean, this was quote unquote from yourself insane. This was insane. This was Alexis Miranda out of FKA as well, also represented Boca Boxing, taking on Barbara El Granada, Granadillo. I think that's what her nickname was, from Bushido Muay Thai. Also, yeah, Bushido Muay Thai. Wow, wow, wow. What a fight between these two females. You know what's funny, Tavia? I was on the Cuban Dudes podcast ahead of this show. My friend started a podcast called the Cuban Dudes Podcast. Of course, as you can imagine, he's Cuban and he's got his co-host, and they're talking about, kind of Hispanic American and Hispanic and Cuban culture and things like that. And they wanted to ask me about the event because they knew Fernando, who's of Cuban descent, he was going to be fighting on the main event, and they wanted to ask about the fight game a little bit. And one question that the co-host Abel asked me was, who fights harder? Who fights harder when they fight? Is it the women or the men? And I told him, I don't want to make any generalities, and I don't want to stereotype, but I feel like if I'm looking at it broadly, the women, I would say, fight with a little bit more heart, right? They fight with a little bit more flair, right, right. So as this fight was happening, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, this was just madness. Tell me what you thought about this fight.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I was thinking the same thing because we had that conversation earlier in the fight card preview, and I did say that women come out and always put on a show because we are always working for our spot in the gym. We're usually outnumbered. I don't know many fight gyms that are majority women. Right. It's majority men. You come in there already intimidated, and you have to prove yourself. Like, these guys do not care. They want to fight too. They want to train. So if you're going to sit there and you want to train and fight, they're going to bring it to you and they expect you to take it. So you have to toughen up, and you have to almost do better than them all the time because you're just constantly trying to prove yourself, and it is, it's just, that's the way it is. And they have a lot of respect for the females though. The guys in our gym know how good Lexi is. They've taken her shots, and they were all there to support her. But yeah, women, we just want to show out, we want to do our best. And man, Barbara, I think her nickname's the Grenade, or, whatever. I was thinking that during the fight. I'm like, I know she said bomb or grenade. What hands that girl has. And I was not expecting that fight from her, truthfully, because I have taken some of Lexi's shots, and I know how hard Lexi's been working on her hands and just, getting back in shape. And Barbara surprising me with, that first round, she came out completely, kind of winning that round, I think, and putting it on Lexi. And I know Lexi was definitely like, maybe not ready for that 100%. I knew Barbara would be tough, but I didn't think she would have that power that she has. And maybe I just didn't do enough. I couldn't find too much on her, but man, a really impressive performance by Barbara. She's going to have a great amateur career, professional career if she wants, because that's exactly how you should be performing in this type of a situation. You're coming in as the underdog with less experience, in her hometown. Lexi's from South Florida too. And you gotta, sit there and prove yourself. And both fighting tough personal battles too, with Barbara losing her stepfather earlier in the week. She came in, made weight, super professional, and put on a performance like that. Like, honestly, like, you can't even get this stuff in the pros sometimes. Like, just trying to point out how special of a fight this was. And it was definitely fight of the night for me, for Kyle as well. The energy in the room changed. We were hyped up. He was killing it on play-by-play. I was like trying to stay locked in, but I was so excited for Lexi. I wanted to just sit there and cheer because I just couldn't believe this back and forth between the two. And that was an incredible fight. Definitely deserving a fight of the night. And if this were, one FC, 50 G's to both those girls, because that was for sure.
That was wild. And you guys can help us get there by subscribing to the channel, joining the channel. Man, these fighters on this card, right? They really need to be commended and supported. Reach out to us if you want to sponsor us and them. Reach out to them. I mean, I can make it happen for you guys. A lot of these fighters are spending a lot of money and resources in training camps, diets, everything else. They need your help. So that's a great way to help them out. Just reach out. Let me know. I can contact them for you or put you in touch. We could sponsor them, do something for them. And it's a write-off for a lot of your businesses, right? So they can put your logo on their shorts or on their walkout shirt, and it's a write-off, and you're helping somebody achieve their dreams and move on to the next level. So definitely feel free to get in touch with us about that. But I agree with you. Tavi. That was just, I was watching this back and forth dance of violence in this fight, and I just said to myself, my goodness. It's like one of them thought they were going to overwhelm one, and the other one said, nope, I'm going to overwhelm you. And it was just like two bulls going at it head first, and it's just they refuse to give up. They
Yep.
refuse to
And
back down.
just when you thought one of them hurt it, like I'd say, oh, that hurt her, like go in for the kill. Response from the other one
Right.
immediately, like immediately. And again, really impressive to Barbara because Lexi's very experienced. You know, she's I think like 4-2 coming into this, but she had the background in competition, and that's intimidating. Plus, she came in ready. You know, she came in with a crowd behind her. And, you know, Barbara not intimidated by any of that. So,
Right.
you know, I'm glad my girl got the win because, you know, she definitely, I think she pushed the pace toward the end of the fight, and her experience did kind of edge Barbara out. But man, what a fight between the two of them. I would honestly like to see a rematch at some point too. Like, I think that would be a fight, like a main event rematch down the line, especially if the both continue in kickboxing, because I think you would see maybe a little more definitive, you know, from either, you know, girl, because I know that they'll probably like that was close for both of them, and they might want to get that one back. I know Barbara probably wants to get that one back. I'm sure she thinks she could do a little better, and I think she could too. You know, I think she really could, and that would be a great rematch for sure.
And shout out to her for fighting despite losing her stepfather in the same week. I mean, big shout out, big respect to her. I'm going to get into something a little bit more about that in a second, Tavia. But first, I see Eddie Rodriguez in here. He says that fight was a banger, FightersRep. He says I was there. So shout out to you, man. Thank you for coming out and supporting. And then we've got our matchmaker, Xavier Hurricane Santana, in here. Shout out to you, Xavier. What a fantastic job you did matching this card. We appreciate you so much, man. We put this card together in basically 2 months, Tavia. You know, I said, hey, we just got to get out there. We got to just start building FightersRep in South Florida. Let's not think about it too much. Let's make it happen. Let's stop talking the talk and let's start walking the walk. And what he was able to match together in 2 months, I think, was incredibly impressive. And I'm very proud and happy of what he did. So shout out to him. Now, I mentioned Barbara Granadillo. We'd get back to that. This is what I want to say about that, Tavia. You know, I've been promoted for a few years now. And, you know, I've met mostly great people. But I've met a few people that, you know, I don't think belong in this sport, you know. And what I mean is, you know, I've met people who've committed to a fight and then pulled out at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, day of weigh-ins. I've met, you know, people sell the promotions tickets, people who sold the promotions tickets to other people. And, you know, instead of handing it back to the promotion, the ticket money, using that money to go fill up gas and do whatever else, you know, they do with their personal life, using the money as if it's theirs. You know, I've had people not show up to weigh in at all, you know what I mean, and come up with all sorts of excuses. And, you know, you can imagine, you run into a lot of these unfortunate characters on your way through promoting. But it's amazing to me that this female whose father died the Sunday before this fight still fought. I mean, I just need to commend her in a game that's filled with so many of these wannabes, for lack of a better word. You know, she is such a breath of fresh air. You know, so I really want to commend her and thank her for her dedication. And I want to send my condolences to her family. But I just, you know, I needed to put that out there, Tavia. You know, you got guys coming up with the worst of the worst excuses. And then you got this woman here that wants to fight so bad that she's willing to fight despite her stepfather dying a few days before. It's just wild to me. So
I agree with everything you just said, George. And I'm 100% a new fan of Barbara Granadillo forever because, yeah, that takes a lot.
Thank you. But Alexis Miranda, let me get into that for a second. I mean, what a fantastic fight. What an athlete. Just gave birth 10 months before. You know, I don't want to hear excuses as to why you don't come to weigh in or you don't show up. I don't want to hear about it. One of them, father just died. The other one just gave birth 10 months ago, looking like an elite athlete. I mean, she told me she gave birth 10 months ago or something like that. I said, what? She looked like she's a track star. I mean, amazing physique. You could tell how dedicated they are. Put on a hell of a performance. Again, for me, fight of the night. without question. And we're not saying that just because it's the females. We're
No.
saying that this was literally fight of the night. This
Yep.
was blood and guts from the
Mhm.
first round to the third, and they took each other to hell and back. And I've watched that fight like 3 times already.
Yeah. This fight deserves all the praise, for real. There was so much going into it for each girl. And yeah, again, just the technique displayed, the output. I mean, come on, the output. Kyle and I said it. We said the guys have something to prove now, because this is insane. You can't sit here and tell me that you can't get through 6 minutes when you just watch these two females go back and forth for an entire 6 minutes,
Right.
and neither one really succeeded. When one of them got hurt, the other one came back. Like you can't. You cannot always find this stuff. Like, even in the pros, I just watched ONE FC this past weekend. Right before the fights, there was a fight between Wonder Girl and this Polish girl, Martina, and I'm a huge fan of hers now, because just the difference in output and the hunger you see in the eyes. It's like, these girls are getting paid, and sometimes you don't get that. So again, just
Right.
what you witnessed either live on the live stream or live being there. I mean, this is the best right now that you're going to see, especially coming from these amateur ladies. And yeah, all the praise to them. Seriously, both of those girls deserve Fight of the Night title for sure.
Big shout out to them. Next up, we go to fight number 8, Tavia. It was at 130 pounds. Leandro Garin versus Jair Ocampo. You told me to watch out for this kid, Jair. This looked like a really solid kid, and that was a great performance he put on. He was just, look to me, he was just overwhelming in that fight. What did you think about this fight?
Yeah, I like Ocampo for sure. I came in kind of favoring him. Garin, interesting techniques, looked really tired at certain points, but still came out and like kind of surprised you. So I don't know if he needs to work on his cardio or just maybe weight management, pace management in the fight, something. But I think you can expect maybe more from him next time, because he just got tired really quickly. And then Ocampo was able to get in there and do his thing. I didn't realize Ocampo was coming off of a 1 week notice. I thought he fought like 3 or 4 weeks ago and did a really good performance, but I guess it was 1 week ago. So, props to him for doing that, because that's a hard turnaround. And I think he left it all out there for sure. Maybe a few more fights. And like I said, this guy is definitely a main event material, because he brings a crowd. He brings excitement. When he gets comfortable in there, as you saw in the 3rd round, he kind of picked it up, and he was starting to really pick his shots very well. I was impressed by him, like I thought I would be. Would be excited to see him fight again and kind of make some small adjustments and improvements in his game. And yeah, I mean, this guy could definitely be fighting for a title very soon.
Yeah. Well, next up, we had fight number 9, Aiden Murray versus Enrique Blasco. There's a couple things that come to mind about this fight. First of all, I gotta shout you guys out at Florida Kickboxing Academy. Holy cow! The physique on this kid, Aiden Murray, the shape that this kid is in. I mean, this kid was, obviously he's still early in his career. This was his debut fight, I'm guessing. But my goodness, I mean, he looked ready physically for this fight. And Enrique wasn't too bad in this fight as well. I just thought, I could tell he had some talent. I just thought he fought the wrong fight, and that's okay. It's his debut fight, but I just felt like he was just kind of walking forward, and Aiden was there to oblige him, and they just got into a gunfight. And when you get into a gunfight, you kind of live by the gun, you die by the gun. And I think that's what happened to Blasco in this fight. I think if he would have been a bit more defensively responsible, maybe thought about technique, this wouldn't have happened. And this could have happened to Aiden too. I mean, they were really landing some bombs on each other for the first, I guess, half of that first round, however long this fight lasted. But Murray, really showing physicality, the strength, and getting Enrique Blasco out of there in the first round. Big shout out to him. Good performance.
Yeah,
very good
performance. I think Aiden has a great style for kickboxing. I think just the way he fights, with the aggression that he fights with. I knew he was like super nervous, you get pushed down the card as a debut fighter. Then you got to follow a fight too, like Lexi and Barbara, and you're close to the co-main. There's so much, adrenaline rushing. And I think they both handled it really well. I mean, I was impressed when Enrique came out with the crowd he had and his like cowboy hat and his little swag. I was like, wow,
awesome.
like maybe I underestimated this kid, because he seemed so quiet and timid and kind of just humble. But then he comes out with this big, show and performance. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right. Like, let's see what he's got, but I knew Aiden was going to fight like that. He was, Aiden's extremely tough. He said it on his post fight. And like I said in the preview, he takes it from some of the best guys in our gym and he just doesn't back down. Like, it might not always be the smartest way to fight, but as a debut fighter and as a guy learning, it definitely builds that toughness and that mentality. And Kyle pointed out that Aiden was one of the only guys to really sit there and put together like a 10-punch combination and then finished it with the knee that dropped Enrique and ended the fight. I mean, you're talking about the first TKO of the night from a debut fighter. Like that's, it is incredible. And props to Aiden for that. He trains really hard. He fights with the best guys at our gym. It's like sometimes he only wants to spar them. And I think it's just to see how tough he is. I think he's just trying to see if he can take it from these guys because he gets it, he gets beat up on. And I think that only made him harder and ready for this fight. And he's just amazing physique in general. I don't know where he gets that from genetics wise either, but I mean, he's a hard worker. And this seemed like pretty easy for him as far as weight cut performance and then kind of dealing with all of that, crowd noise from Enrique. And I was really impressed by how he handled himself and really happy for him that he got the TKO. I know he's worked hard for it and he's been wanting this for a while. So that was pretty much just the best way you could get it. And, props to Aiden for sure.
It really was. I mean, a debut performance doesn't get much better than that. But again, I do think Blasco, he did land some nice shots. And, I just thought he was a little bit too defensively. I thought they were both kind of defensively careless. I think they were both just winging shots. But Aiden, just the stronger guy, the harder punch, and was able to land the kill shot before Blasco could land his. Again, I think they both obviously have a lot to learn from this fight, but shout out to Aiden, man. That was a great debut performance. Good job to him. And like you said, Blasco, nice. I love the charisma. I love the cowboy hat, and I do think he's got some skills. But live by the sword, die by the sword, and that's kind of what happened in this fight, if you ask me. So that takes us to the co-main event of the evening, right? Where we just mentioned toughness. My goodness, this was a pair of really tough guys throwing down in the welterweight division. You had FKA's Nick Thomas, who I was really impressed with, getting the win over Adric Kennedy. Another guy I was very impressed with as well. I thought this was one of the most technically dazzling fights of the night. The pace was awesome. The technique was awesome from both guys. I just loved the action in this fight, and they were so durable. They were so tough. They were landing so many hard shots on each other, and they just kept coming. My goodness, Tavia, tell me your thoughts on this fight.
Yeah, really impressive fight by both guys. Adric definitely surprised me in that first round. He did drop Nick with that knee, whether, it was face or body, either way, he dropped him. And I was like, oh, how
which are illegal strikes for the amateurs, by the way.
To the face. Okay.
Yeah. And knees to the head in the amateurs are not allowed. So that's why the referee was on Adric about that.
Yeah, for sure. But, either way, it dropped him. And that's something for Nick to learn, too, because I think Nick kind of leaned into it. So he's just got to be more spatially aware. But, man, what a response for him. We were raving about him, too, after. Like, man, when you get dropped like that, now you're bleeding. And you're just like, you don't know how you're going to respond. And he came out with those teeps, those aggressive teeps, like to the throat, chest, chin area. And those hurt. I mean, sometimes you'd rather take one to the gut versus like the solar plex chest area. Like those really knock the wind out of you. And he put everything behind those. Yeah. And just a really great back and forth. And to come back and kind of drop Adric and
that was a vicious knockdown. That was a vicious knockdown.
Yeah, I'm surprised Adric was able to finish, honestly, because that was a big shot he took. And
Adric showed the heart in that fight the way Abello showed the heart in his fight, getting up from that shot. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, so very impressive performance by Nick. And both guys, too. And honestly, I think, like you said, like, dazzling. Like, there was something about it from both guys that it was like you just wanted to keep watching because you weren't sure, you weren't sure who's going to land the harder shot next. They were both throwing everything into it. And the pace was phenomenal. So, yeah, that was worthy of co-main for sure. And I know Nick's, reeling over his win, and he should be. That was a tough fight. again, you never know how you're going to react when you get dropped. Like whether
Right.
it's legal, illegal, you just don't know, like
Yes.
now you're on the canvas, you're bleeding, like you got to come back, it just looks bad either way. So, great response from Nick, and, great effort by Adric, and tough fight for both guys. Very well
Yeah.
matched.
Yeah, and then Nick went in for the finish. I mean, I got to give him credit, and he landed some big shots, and he had rocked Adric again afterwards. But man, Adric just built out of
Yeah.
something different, and just kept on coming in that pace and that viciousness and the mean intent behind all the strikes and the speed and the athleticism. It was just a beautiful fight, and like you said, I thought it was very much worthy of co-main event status. So big congrats to both of them. I hope to have them both back at the Lions Den. Honestly, that was a great fight. And that brings us to our main event, where we crowned our first ever Fighters Rep East Coast middleweight champion in FKA's Fernando, the Golden Boy Valdez, who took on Reggie Abrasaldo. We flew out from basically Paradox Fight Club out in Las Vegas. Johnny Parsons' team. Shout out to them for coming out and taking on the challenge. They're always down to fight whoever. But Valdez, even though Abrasaldo was really long and awkward and seemed to hit very hard when he did, Valdez was just a bit too much for him, a little bit too much technique, volume, relentless, lot of shots to the body, and got the job done. And this is what I want to say about it, Tavia, because in our preview, you said, what he needs to do is build on his boxing a bit. He needs to showcase his boxing a bit, and I felt like this fight really gave him the opportunity to do that, because Abrasaldo was so much taller than him. It gave him a chance to kind of go to the body and work on his boxing, and he did just that. I think it was a good fight for both of these guys.
Yeah, Reggie kind of coming out like I expected. He's very tough. Like this kid is tough, and I saw that in his previous fights. I knew that Fernando had what it took to take Reggie down, but I was just like, this is going to be a tough fight, And Reggie took some shots, and he had some really great moments. Though those high kicks of his are no joke. Like again, something we talked about at our, after the fights, we were like really impressed with Reggie's high kicks. I mean, you don't see kicks like that a lot, because maybe it's his length, maybe it's his height, but he throws with so much power, and you almost don't see it coming. It's like delayed. We were saying that at our, at our dinner afterward. Like it was crazy how strong those kicks were, and they landed. Fernando blocked them, but they landed. Like you feel
they looked
that.
strong.
The glove is there, but you feel it. So those definitely like had me a little worried. I was like, like I know Fernando's smart enough, and I know the corner will make the adjustments, but those kicks are no joke. And so shout out to Reggie for that. He's got some great head kick technique. Fernando looked great. He loves to throw his little spinning stuff and make it exciting and mix it up. I thought his boxing was really good. I think Kyle and I were kind of just watching from the screen point of view, like, man, if he just sits down more on some of those shots, he could really put him down. But I think it was maybe the height, because Reggie's so tall. So I know Fernando was probably trying not to leave himself too open, because he just knew that Reggie could probably come up with a kick or a knee. But great effort from both guys. Good pace. Fernando really put it on him. Again, Reggie just getting caught with a little too many body shots there. I don't know if it was the experience level or what, but and it's hard as a tall fighter, when someone can get in on you, you almost are at a disadvantage, because now you're so lanky and limmy. Like you have to know how to like break off properly, or else you're kind of just a sitting target. And that's a tough thing for tall fighters, because their limbs are much longer. So it takes more for them to kind of break off and push out and kick out. So, just maybe footwork for Reggie, to work on in the future, just maybe get a little more active there. When you face someone like Fernando, who's really quick and strong, that's a tough fight. So I think, there's improvements for both guys to be made, but congrats to Fernando. Another title. This guy loves collecting belts. He's there, he's hitting that elite amateur status for sure. He's one of the best in the state. He's got a few more fights to maybe, cement that for sure. A couple guys he's got to face, but other than that, he's climbing the ranks, and, great performance from him. And, he's also a coach at our gym, and he coaches the kids, and they were there cheering him on. I thought that was adorable. They just love this guy so much. And he is a really good role model for these kids. I get reviews from parents all the time about how much they appreciate Fernando's teaching. So it's nice to see someone like that too also get their flowers and kind of, put on a performance like that, because he works really hard, and he is like a martial artist in and out. So Yeah, really happy for him. And, shout out to Reggie for taking the fight, flying over here
Yeah.
and sticking with it. Honestly, I mean, he had his moments for sure. There were some
Yeah.
highlights in there for Reggie. Absolutely. But, yeah, great main event overall.
Yeah, no, I agreed, and I agree with you. Like now, you talking about it. Maybe if he would have sat down on those punches, I did notice he was landing a lot of body shots. Maybe if he were able to sit down and plant and really put a little more in there, could have gotten Reggie out of there a bit earlier. But still got the job done against Reggie's a very tough guy. And shout out to Isaac McCary. He's in here, free smoke. Reggie Stableman. He says Reggie has some nasty head kicks. He's caught a few bodies with them before for sure. And he says, great show out there in Florida, George. I watched the whole thing. I appreciate you, Isaac. You're the man, brother. Great work from the Golden Boy. I was impressed by his technique at the open workout, and the little build-up video we had put out for him. And, he looked very good. He looked very good. And now he captures the title. And I do think, like you said, there's probably just a couple fights left for him before he turns pro. So I'm glad, we got him before he goes to the pro ranks, unless eventually he fights for us pro at some point. But I'm glad we got a taste of the Golden Boy at least a little bit. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, we're open to it. These guys are always looking for a platform and a fight. So we appreciate you putting on the show and welcoming us to it. Because I know they had a great time.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that's all the fights on the night. I thought it was a really fun night. I want to thank everybody who came out on the night, all the teams, all the coaches, all the fighters, all their fans, all the staff that made it happen. I had a great time, Tavia. I thought it was a great time. I didn't know what to expect in our first Florida show. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know because I had gone to a couple shows out here just to kind of scope the landscape. And it just didn't seem like the crowds were as big. I'll be honest with you. The crowds didn't seem as big as they do in California. And it didn't seem as developed. The striking aspect of the fight game, especially, I mean, because in California, especially Southern California, every corner there's a Muay Thai gym. So it just doesn't seem that way yet in South Florida to me. So I wasn't sure what to expect. But I'll be honest, I was kind of shocked. I was kind of taken aback by how many people came out and the excitement and the love for the sport of kickboxing on Saturday.
Yeah, I want to commend the fans again too, and just the gyms. When you show up at the very beginning of the card, the place was packed. And I mean, I know it was a lot of our team because we had so many fighters, but still, for everyone to stay through the entire night and support the entire card, that's what you need as a promotion to continue to go on, and as fighters, and to make this show really eventful and fun. Like, again, the signs and the crowds, like that just added another element, and I loved it. And I was like, man, signs, that's like such a good idea. I never thought about that, I've been doing this, I've been around this for over a decade, but it just makes so much sense, and it brings such a good energy, and you just felt it the whole night. And I really had a great time. I was like, that was so much, after we were all done, I was like, that was so much fun. I'll do this again. Absolutely. Like, I had a great time. It was great performances by all the fighters, and again, the crowds and the gyms. Thank you guys for sticking with it and coming from, first bell to last. That really does make a difference energy wise. And just, again, with the atmosphere. So yeah, I'd be down to do it again. I hope these gyms would be too, because it was a great turnout. Congratulations on it.
Thank you. Yes. And, we all win when there's a big turnout and a lot of people come out to support the sport. And, I'd love to do this every 2.5, 3 months here in Florida and alternate in California. Same thing, 2.5, every 2.5, 3 months. So, we will be announcing a date here shortly for the next Fighters Rep in South Florida. And Isaac McCary says West Coast versus East Coast Fighters Rep card in the future. That might be something in the books as well. I think that would be a lot of fun. I mean, we have been getting a little taste of that at the last couple of Fighters Rep events, flying guys out from Florida and California. Budakov on this one, as well as Reggie and Big Joe Grant on the last one. So, who knows what the future holds, right, Tavia? Who knows?
Yep, that would be a great one though. And
you got to tune in to find out, though. They got to tune in to find
exactly.
out. But anyway, thank you so much for your time, Tavia. I mean, you guys were incredibly helpful. I appreciate your support. Thank you for your support in the fight game. And listen, guys, I want to send a special shout out to Tavia, man. She wanted to commentate for free. She wanted to do this for free. I said, oh my God, I'm going to take 7-8 hours of your time for free. I got to at least try to give you something. But, that just goes to show your dedication to the sport and your selflessness. And I really appreciate that. That's very altruistic of you. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you. I'm glad I could be a part of it. I love this sport, and just being a part of it as a lifestyle. So I appreciate the opportunity and the platform for sure.
For sure. So hopefully we'll see you guys maybe around May or June. I'm gonna let you guys know soon.
I'll start. Yeah, you tell me. Just say the word. You know me, George. Just say the word. I'll get everybody ready. I'm a full service. I'll get you everybody. So
I know, my goodness. But anyway, thank you for your time, Tavia, and thank you for all of Knucklehead Nation that joined us on the live. Again, don't forget to subscribe, join the channel, get your merchandise. Again, anything you spend here, I just spend it on building this thing up for the fighters and on the fighters themselves. So I really appreciate your time. We'll see you guys soon. Tomorrow, we do podcasts every Monday at 9 p.m. So we'll see you there. And you can follow Tavia at her commentating career on Instagram at it's Tavia Rowe, right? Tavia Rowe.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. All right, guys. Have a great one. Thank you, Tavia. Appreciate you. All right.